Yes, sir. Oh, thank you, God, for this life. We are here. Most people will never experience real power. You want to know why? Because they don't even know what it looks like. Because they're asleep when it is being built. So that's right. If you're here with me at 4 a.m., you're already ahead. Welcome to Epoch 1, day 73. Today, we run the audit. Not a pop quiz, not a performance review. The system audit. The one you didn't even realize was happening. My beautiful people. Most people don't even know they're being tested. They think the system grades on effort. It doesn't. They think the system gives warnings. It doesn't. They think the system waits until they're ready. It doesn't. The uncooked, the fully real raw is that you are being evaluated every second of every day. Your every move is being recorded. If you are not proving your execution, you are actively deleting yourself. This is the audit. The Do You rules, row it for real life, simple human audit. Either you pass or you disappear. Either you prove your execution or the system removes you. Either you are indispensable or you are replaceable. You will not be notified when you fail. By the time you realize it, the consequences are already set in motion. This is of vital importance, extreme significance and importance. And I know, like Jeff, stop with the clickbait talk. What is the system audit? Okay, fair question. The system audit is simple. It is an unannounced, unrelenting, and unforgiving evaluation of your execution. There are no retakes, no do-overs, no second chances. Everything you do, everything you don't do, every action, every hesitation, it is all of it is being tracked. By who? Question. The environment is tracking you. How you move when no one is watching, because you think no one is watching. The system is tracking you. What decisions do you make under pressure? Your energy is tracking you. The frequency you emit determines what returns to you. The future is tracking you. Every move is a vote for what happens next. You may think no one sees your effort, but the unseen always sees you. You're not just being watched, you're being measured. And measurement decides your future. Pass, you elevate. Fail, you disappear. I'm going to get straight into a personal story before you dismiss the significance of this. Immerse yourself with me here. And let me just be real and uncooked about the moment the system looked me dead in my face, revealed itself, and forced me to see the truth. And back then, just like now, I thought I was untouchable. You know what I mean? I was winning at work. I had recognition, respect, and results. I was doing my thing. All of it felt like undeniable proof that I was executing. And one day, boom, and I mean boom, we all felt this. COVID, it hit, massive implications. The company I worked for was built on foot traffic. No foot traffic, no business, no business, no profit, no profit, no jobs. I watched. I watched as the system made a decision. They ranked every employee. And here's how they pretty much bucketed everybody. There's a group of indispensable people. They always are. The untouchables. These were the ones the company wouldn't even consider cutting. If the ship was sinking, these were the ones that got the lifeboats first. There are people like that. Then there's semi-dispensable, the maybes, valuable but not critical. They weren't thrown overboard, but they weren't kept inside the fortress either. And then there's the dispensable, the deleted. People the system didn't hesitate to remove. No explanation, no consideration, just gone. Guess where I landed? Right in the middle. The semi-dispensable pile, which meant for 6 months, I went through a humiliating rotation of employment and unemployment. 1 month I was on the payroll. The next month I was on unemployment checks for the first time in my life. I had just bought my dream house. I had spent my whole career building security. And yet the system made it clear I was not a necessity. And like you, at least I believe, that realization straight up crushed me. Not just the financial hit, that hurts. It hurts. Not just the career instability, not just the ego punch, but the fact that my execution wasn't enough to make me undeniable. The system audited me and it said, you're valuable, you're pretty cool, you're talented, but you are replaceable. That shook me, straight up embarrassed me, but it also rewired me. And I know it's cliche, because we all say we know that everyone is replaceable, and that's true. But what's also true is not at the same level. Some people, they're non-negotiable. Others, they're nice to have until times get tight. And some, they're the first ones thrown off the ship. It was only really one thing to ask myself, which I had to ask myself. Am I truly irreplaceable? Or do I just think I am? Because let's be clear, if it wasn't already, the system, it doesn't care about what you think you bring to the table. It only respects proof. And if your proof is weak, it will discard you without hesitation and without a second thought. So here's what I learned about real executors. They don't just do their job, they make themselves a requirement. They don't just bring measurable value, they handle what can't be measured. They don't just keep the lights on, they stop the lights from ever going out. Execution is not about staying employed. It's about becoming unquestionably necessary. And if you don't realize that now, if you don't realize that now, you'll learn it when the system finally audits you. And make no mistake, an audit is coming for your job, for your health, for your relationships, for your legacy. And when that moment comes, you either have proof or you will be deleted. So, of course, that moment changed everything for me. And if you don't think the same kind of audit is happening in your life right now, then you're already at risk. Everyday life, everyday realities. This is a realization that if you're like me and left unprepared for, there's a lot of moments that occur more frequently than I think we acknowledge consciously. But there's some we don't return from. And we see it all the time in our lives and our relationships and how we sort of stagnate. It's almost as if it's a point of no return moment, mainly because we weren't prepared for it. And my frustration with this style of audit, with this realization that you are a system and there's systems around you working constantly. We're going to get into God in a moment. But I journaled this the other day. God is the ultimate system and that God is always creating. If God took a moment to take a deep breath and stop creating, everything would crumble. Consider that. Appreciate what that means. That you believe you're the center of everything, but there's so many centers of everything and everything's centered on one. If you could accept and appreciate the possibility that God can never stop creating. In that way, the systems around us, they never sleep. There are decisions constantly being made, actions constantly being taken that impact all of us to varying degrees. That's also why that 6 degrees of separation is important. And eventually, there's decisions that are made way outside of the scope of what we understand and appreciate that have upstream and downstream effects. We talk about this constantly. You can't avoid it. There's just the reality too that as God is always creating and everything is so vast, it can't always impact you only because others are needing to be considered, but it comes for you. And that is what I hope to offer. And that as you're building your system, you're losing sight, or you don't lose sight, or you acknowledge that there are things that you can't predict, you can't be necessarily ready for per se, and that you can't dictate or determine the specificity with which the decisions are being made, but you can be assured that it's going to impact you. And if you're not always positioning yourself in your life, first for yourself, as being indispensable, my core values, God, faith, honor, loyalty, I work on that until I'm absolutely indispensable in the reciprocity of the relationships. With your significant other, with children you might be raising, with your community, with your circle of friends, your careers. Don't just get into this vibe of, oh, it's okay, I'm replaceable, everybody's replaceable, businesses don't care. If that's how you want to conduct your business, it's misguided from the perspective of course you have influence. Of course you have influence. Of course you're categorized. Everybody has a grade. One of my mentors told me that when I was growing up in my professional career. It's just because you only see you and what you're doing and how it's impacting you. If you broaden your scope and perspective, and you know that there's conversations being had right now that influence you, and when the inevitable occurs, you're graded, you have a rank. At minimum, don't ever be dispensable immediately that you're not even thought of. You're just a number. We need 5% of cut. I don't even think about the 5%. We just gotta cut it. That's when we think, oh, we're just a name on paper. Well, you perform like a name on paper or a number. You earned that. Somebody just didn't pick you out and say, hey, we're gonna put you in a dispensable pile. While we need you, great. Perform some of these duties, or we don't need you, we're gonna cut you right away. You earned that. The way the person that is indispensable, that you're like, oh, that person gets to walk into all the rooms and have the secret meetings and conversations. They earned that. In that way, they're indispensable. This is why hierarchy is important. Where do you rank? Where do you rank in your life, in all of your relationships? What level are you at as far as being indispensable, semi-indispensable, or dispensable, semi-indispensable, and untouchable? There are people like that. There are people who earn the right to go down with the ship. It's given to God. This isn't just business. This isn't just corporate strategy. This has always been the law of existence. God, based on the books and some texts and some history, has been ordering people since the beginning of the time. And the ones who couldn't pass were erased from the book. This is actually my biggest friction point with the book and God, the way that they outline God, which for context, I don't align with. I don't see God this way, but concepts. Noah. God ran an audit on humanity. The world failed. Noah passed, got the ark. Everyone else deleted. Saul versus David. Saul was the chosen king by the people. That frustrated God too. First chosen king. Until his execution started slipping. God audited his actions, stripped him of his role, and replaced him with David. Erased. Then there was the parable of talents. The servant who buried his talent instead of multiplying it. Some selfishness there. The servant was labeled useless. What happened? Taken away, deleted. Every time God audits someone, the same principle applies. If you don't execute, you don't evolve. If you don't evolve, you don't exist. God doesn't just hand out positions. He watches, he waits, he audits. And those who fail, they get replaced. This ain't just spiritual. This is the law of execution across all time and history. So let me just ask you, if God audited you today, would you pass? Execute or expire? Execute or expire? Let's check the chat. Will you execute or will you expire? Do these words hold water? Do you find yourself auditing yourself right now? That's the intent. Oh, shit, my G. Two live sessions in a row. The first one, I had no, man, that's frustrating. Man, that's frustrating. Yesterday, my audio. uh, I'm gonna have to start all over. That's frustrating. Okay. All right. I apologize. I can't leave you 2 days in a row without audio. I was frustrated yesterday when I replayed and I saw that there was no audio. Let me make sure I got the right. Yep. All right. Let's run it from the top. Most people will never experience real power. And you know why? Because they don't even know what it looks like. Because they're asleep when it is being built. So that's right. If you're here with me at 4 a.m., you're already ahead. Welcome to Epoch 1, day 73. Today, we run the audit. Not a pop quiz, not a performance review, the system audit. The one you didn't even realize was happening. Let me bring you to a realization. Most people don't even know they're being tested. They think and believe the system grades on effort, which is crazy because a lot of people don't give the type of effort they think they give. But the system doesn't grade on effort. They think the system gives warnings. It doesn't. They think the system waits until they're ready. It doesn't. You are being evaluated every second of every day. Your every move is being recorded. And if you're not proving your execution, you are actively deleting yourself. This is the audit. Either you pass or you disappear. Either you prove your execution or the system removes you. Either you are indispensable or you are replaceable. Make no mistake, you will not be notified when you fail. By the time you realize it, the consequences are already set in motion. This is happening real time, all the time. There's a question you should be asking right now. What is the system audit? The system audit is simple. It is an unannounced, unrelenting, and unforgiving evaluation of your execution. This ain't a movie. There are no retakes, no do-overs, no second chances. Everything you do, everything you don't do, every action, every hesitation, it is all of it is being tracked. The environment is tracking you. How you move when no one is watching. The system is tracking you. What decisions you make under pressure. Your energy is tracking you. The frequency you emit determines what returns to you. The future is tracking you. Every move is a vote for what happens next. You may think no one sees your effort, but the unseen always sees you. The unseen always sees you. You're not just being watched, you're being measured. And measurement decides your future. If you pass, you elevate. Fail, you disappear. We'll make this relatable. Cliche Jeff, personal story, personal perspective. I call this the system audit wake up call. And this is the moment. There were many moments, but this one was paramount to my evolution. When the system looked me dead in the face and it forced me to see the truth. Back then, I thought I was untouchable. I was winning at work, recognition, respect, results. All of it felt like undeniable proof that I was executed. One day, boom, COVID hit. Happened to all of us. The company I worked for was built on foot traffic. No foot traffic, no business, no business, no profit, no profit, no jobs. Scared to death, I watched as the system made a decision. They ranked every single employee. The top category were the indispensables. These are the untouchables. These were the ones the company wouldn't even consider cutting. They're the ones doing the considering. If the ship was sinking, these were the ones who got lifeboats first. Semi-dispensable, the babies. Valuable, but not critical. They weren't thrown overboard, but they weren't kept inside the fortress either. Dispensable. The deleted people the system didn't hesitate to remove. No explanation, no consideration, just gone. Thank you and have a nice life. You want to guess where I landed? Right in the middle. Which you think you want to be at. It's not cool. The semi-dispensable pile, which meant for 6 months, felt like 6,000 years. I went through this humiliating rotation of employment and unemployment. 1 month I was on the payroll. The next, I was on unemployment checks for the first time in my life. I also learned what it was like to be furloughed. I didn't even know the word furloughed existed. Of course, I had just bought my dream home like months before. I had spent my whole career building security, at least I thought. And yet the system made it clear I was not a necessity. And that realization straight up crushed like a massive anvil ton weight on my chest. Not just the financial hit, not just the career instability, not just the ego punch, but the fact that my execution wasn't enough to make me undeniable the way I thought I was undeniable. The system audited me and it said, yeah, you're valuable, but you're also replaceable. Of course, it shook me. It embarrassed me. But it also rewired me. Because it's cliche. We all say we know that everyone is replaceable, but there's a truth. We are just not at the same level. Some people, they're non-negotiable. Others, they're nice to have until times get tight. And some, they're the first ones thrown off the ship. And I had to ask myself one question that changed my life. Am I truly irreplaceable? Or do I just think I am? Because let's be clear, the system doesn't care what you think you bring to the table. It only respects proof. And if your proof is weak, it will discard you without a second thought. So there's some things I learned. Here is what I learned about real executors. They don't just do their job, they make themselves a requirement. They don't just bring measurable value. They handle what cannot be measured. It's the intangibles. They don't just keep the lights on, they stop the lights from ever going out. Execution is not about staying employed, it's about becoming unquestionably necessary. And if you don't realize that now, you'll learn it when the system finally audits you. And make no mistake, an audit is coming. Real life, real time, an audit. An audit for your job, for your health, for your relationships, for your legacy, for your name. And when that moment comes, you will either have proof or you will be deleted. That moment changed everything for me. And if you don't think the same kind of audit is happening in your life right now, then you're already at risk. Before we get into God again, I think the relatability here is off the charts. I had a mentor as I was growing who said very clearly, everyone has a grade. Everyone has a grade. And we're always talking about our staff, our team, and the grades. Everybody essentially has a rank. This is not about liking it. This is not about emotional attachment. This is reality. Decisions are being made at all times. I said this as I journaled it recently, and I think it's paramount, or at least prevalent to the conversation. God is root, right? God, faith, honor, loyalty. The significance of God is forget it. I can't even tell you in words, but think about it like this. Creator is always creating and can never stop creating. If for even a brief moment, God or creator stopped creating, everything would stop, right? So in that way, everything's always in motion. Everything's always in motion. Everything's not all about you. But eventually, everything reaches you. Because there's an everything to everyone. There's an everyone to everything. And so what you pursue for your life, relative to how you can pursue your life, that is everything to you. You have a grade. You have a rank. And the level of execution you bring to respective structure, systems, determines your value. When you receive a decision that something has happened in your life, it's not an in-the-moment decision. It's a cumulative effect. It's like the stock market. There's compound interest. I say this as often as I possibly can. This is why execution is so vital. This is why in this space, folks drive you back to the moment. Because you really can't waste moment, because moments are happening all the time, and it's happening so fast, they just stack and stack and stack and stack. And the more moments you stack of non-execution, the more you bring yourself towards a really dispensable lifestyle. You got to summarize things in a way that your level of execution and effectiveness makes you indispensable. I'm indispensable to God because I have identified God as my root. So in that way, I execute all the time on my relationship to God. It's of great significance. Why? I want to rank higher. When God goes about creating and making decisions, I want to have a level of influence on my life. So I pray with great intentionality. I live with great intentionality. I accept accountability of my life and doing you with great, great priority. So that when God decides to rank, which we'll get into God and how history has worked, I'm high on the scale. It's not who's better. It's not a competition. It's about if I execute the way that I believe I need to execute my relationship with God, I have nothing to worry about. If I move in faith, faith don't wait, thou deletes the code. Honor won't fold, no cracks, no compromise. Loyalty, no slips, no switches. You practice executing at these levels for yourself so that you can elevate yourself into an indispensable lifestyle. So that when systems around you are systeming, you're always prepared. And at minimum, you can walk with great confidence to know if you were to audit me in mind, body, spirit, I am indispensable. I am harmonized. I am in great union. There's a symphony. There's an orchestra. God is orchestrating. And I'm doing my dance. I move. I execute. I become indispensable. Don't find yourself thrown off the ship. It'll hurt you. It'll hurt you and you may never recover. Don't do that. God. When God audits the greats, this isn't just business. This isn't just corporate strategy. This has always been the law of existence. God has been auditing people since the beginning of time. And the ones who couldn't pass were erased from the book. This is actually my biggest point of contention with the book. Devastated me. Nightmares. Think about this. Don't just let me not go off on a tangent. Let's look at the stories. Noah. You appreciate why there was an ark? There was a flood. Why? God ran an audit on humanity. The world failed. Noah passed. Everyone else deleted. Saul versus David. Saul was the chosen king by the people. That irritated God too. He didn't understand why people wanted a monarchy in that way. So Saul was the chosen king until his execution started slipping. God audited his actions, stripped them, replaced them with David, erased. There's a story that's titled The Parable of Talents. There was a servant who buried his talent instead of multiplying it, was therefore labeled useless. What happened? Taken away, deleted. What does this tell us? Every time God audits someone, the same principle applies. If you don't execute, you don't evolve. If you don't evolve, you don't exist. God doesn't just hand out positions. He watches, he waits, he audits. And those who fail, they get replaced. This ain't just spiritual. This is the law of execution across all time and history. Read a book, any book. So let me ask you. If God audited you today, would you pass, execute, or expire? This ain't about how you feel. Where my chat at? It's 4:40 a.m. I'll share this briefly before we get into unseen consequences of failing the system audit. The book, my biggest point of contention, was always what seemed to be this battle against God not appreciating that his people aren't following the people trying to be saved, and God deciding if he should wipe the people out. He did it with Noah. He asked Moses. In fact, a lot of research and the logic around the crucifixion of God's only son, I don't believe that either, that God was his only son. But anyway, the biggest sin that we were saved from was the constant battle between the very first driven commandment, there's only one God. And every time we deviate from that core principle, which I do believe there's only one, who that is, you decide. But that battle between the faith, honor, loyalty, and you lose it, boom, eliminate. Then there's fear, then you go back, and then boom, you eliminate until finally it was the crucifixion to save us from all this back and forth. Apply that to your life. Apply that to the reality that when you first implement and align yourself with a goal, you're all the way faithful, honorable, and loyal. Then you get into your routines and your habits and patterns, right? And you sort of fall off. You stop auditing yourself. And then you start finding some difficulties in your life. Consider it. Where the chat at? Okay. Let's talk about the unseen consequences of failing the system audit. Because of how this feels, I think, because it hurts when it happens. Most people assume failure happens all at once, but it doesn't. It does not. It happens silently. Failure isn't a single event. It's a gradual expiration. The system doesn't fire you overnight. It phases you out. One forgotten opportunity at a time, one ignored moment at a time, one slow deletion at a time. You won't even notice you're being replaced until the system no longer acknowledges your existence. There are 3 silent stages of deletion. Stage 1, the warning signs. Ignored but still recoverable. Immerse yourself. Look around. Appreciate. People stop seeking your input. You missed 1 or 2 shots at advancement. You start feeling stagnant, but you tell yourself, this is just temporary. It's temporary. Stage 2, the fade out. Your value becomes a question mark. You're no longer in critical conversations. You don't get invited to decision-making spaces. You notice people are moving forward. And you're watching from the sidelines. Stage 3, the full deletion, replaced without realizing it. One day, you look up and you are irrelevant. Nobody needs you. Nobody remembers you. The system has already moved forward without you. By the time you realize what's happening, it's already too late. No announcement, no sympathy, just deletion. The system has to system. The system has to move. God cannot stop creating. You either advance yourself or you get advanced on. Here's a system audit checklist. System audit checklist. How to diagnose your execution. If you're serious about running a personal audit, Here's how you can do it. Step one is the 24-hour log. What did you execute on yesterday? What would the system say you're valuable for? Would you hire you, promote you, invest in you? Step two, the efficiency report. Where are you leaking time, energy, and focus? What habits are actively weakening your execution? Would an objective system consider you an asset or a liability? Step three, the replacement test. If you disappear today, would anything collapse without you? If not, you're already on the way out. Run the audit, identify the errors, upgrade your execution, or get deleted. The system doesn't care. Let's support each other. Audit yourself right now. Whether you acknowledge it or not, you are already being evaluated. If you ignore this audit, you are guaranteeing your own deletion. If you wait until the system removes you, you will have nowhere to appeal. Audit yourself first. Upgrade your execution or get replaced. By beautiful people. Let's get to the uncooked. Let's get to the raw. Let's be real. If your life, career, reputation, and opportunities were audited right now, you would get one of two classifications. System asset, your execution is undeniable. The system invests in you because you're invaluable. System liability. Your execution is inconsistent. The system is debating whether it still needs you. And if the system labels you as an inefficiency, it will remove you. Let's not get it twisted. This ain't about fear. This is about urgency. Most people don't take action until they've already lost. But the elite, they audit themselves first. So when the system runs its audit, they already know they're passing. Execute or expire. The audit is happening right now because you either run the system or the system runs you. Change your mind, change your life. I am who I say I am. Do you and stay rich.